And this is a view from outside the International Space Station of Crew Dragon Endurance docked to the orbital outpost. Inside are 4 human beings: NASA astronaut Jasmine Mugbelly, ESA astronaut Andy Mogensen, JAXA astronaut Satoshi Furukawa, and Roscosmos cosmonaut Konstantin Borisov. They docked to space station at 8:16 a.m. Central Time, following their launch from the Kennedy Space Center in Florida yesterday at 2:27 a.m. Central.
Dragon, Houston on the big loop. Hardline audio configuration is complete. Please do a comm check.
Houston, Dragon copies. I have you loud and clear. How me? And we'll do station next.
Dragon, Houston, I have you loud and clear.
Station, Dragon, comm check. How do you hear?
Dragon Station has you loud and clear. How me?
We have you the same.
And that was a communications check between Dragon Endurance and the International Space Station, everything checking out well.
SpaceX, Dragon on the big loop, suits are drying.
Copy, Dragon. Suits are drying. And Dragon, let us know when it's okay for us to come back on board.
Wilco, not quite yet.
SpaceX copies.
And with that call, we may shortly be getting some views back inside Crew Dragon Endurance. The crew has removed their spacesuits and has them in a drying configuration as they wait to come aboard the International Space Station.
Station, Houston on the big loop for leak check status.
Go ahead, Amy.
Hey, just want to let you know we're expecting about another 10 minutes or so to confirm that the leak check is good.
All right, we copy. Thanks for the update.
for the lab and cupola shutter, we can give the crew a new time for when they can open them. That is going to be 14:46.
14:46, okay.
While NASA astronaut Woody Hoberg continues to step through those procedures to repressurize the vestibule, his crewmates are enjoying a day off. On board the International Space Station currently are 7 human beings. Those include NASA astronaut Frank Rubio, Roscosmos cosmonaut Sergei Prokopyev, Dmitry Petelin, and Andrei Fadayev, as well as NASA astronaut Steve Bowen, Woody Hoberg, and then UAE astronaut Sultan Al-Nayadi. Once Crew 7 floats aboard the International Space Station, there will be 11 humans on board until Crew 6 departs here in a short time.
Flight extra status.
Nice.
We're mostly complete with step 5. Current still has a few more cleanup steps, but we are now stepping into step 6 to swap over to 1553 data path.
Okay, copy. With the ice, I assume we got all of step 3 and 4 complete as well, correct?
Good words, Mike.
Flight ADCO for procedure deviation.
ADCO.
So flight, our procedure has us incorporate this new CCD slot going from the one we did for ACS voting over to our normal slot with only a degree of error. However, due to an issue with our current mass properties that GNC engineering is working on, our steady state attitude error is a little bit north of a degree, so we're right about 1.4 degrees. In order to, I have no issue incorporating this given our steady state attitude error is above a degree, but the procedure does state that we shouldn't hand over above a degree. My recommendation is still to incorporate the new slot, but I needed to come to you for the go for that.
Why does the procedure say you shouldn't hand over above a degree?
It increases momentum. So we'll see for the shorthand an increase in momentum after incorporating this new
Increase in momentum, but I mean, we don't expect any thruster firings or something. I mean,
it might lead to a deflate.
And that's the reason why?
It is, yes, that is the reason why.
So, no harm in doing the DSAT though, right?
There is no harm in doing the DSAT at this point, no.
Okay. And what would be the alternative?
The alternative would be handing over to Russian attitude control for them to drive down our
either way, we use thrusters, right?
Correct. We ran into this issue last week after the PDAM and the OPM.
Yeah. Okay.
And the flight burn, we have a mock our starters, so if we do hand over to active Russian pressure control, we need to go to relock our starters.
No, I understand. But you're good for CMGTA with thruster firings at this point, right?
And that would be my preference.
Okay.
Instead of having to hand back over.
Yep, I understand. You have a go to incorporate the 1.4 degree error.
Copy, go.
Flight PAO.
PAO.
Flight, congratulations on your docking. I have a quick question here to review the bidding for hatch opening and welcoming coming up. Do we think that we can give a ballpark estimate here on when hatch opening might be at this point?
Yeah, it's all going to depend on the leak check. So I don't think I can tell you that until we've completed a successful leak check.
Yeah, and Flight MD, we're currently in our acceptance criteria.
Beyond
so
that,
we should be able to keep
for
going.
the welcoming remarks, just a note that this is Jedi message 963, whenever it happens. And again, as we discussed earlier, if we can't make 1530, we may have to default to the next KU opportunity, which we'll do. It's on the Node 2 encoder, audio and video down.
Hold on a second. Let's see. So, MD, you said we're in our acceptance criteria?
E-firm, we're just chatting out with Ethos real quick here.
Okay.
And Flight Ethos, I can confirm we had a good vestibule leak check, and we're go to complete our vestibule pressurization, which gives crew a go to proceed to ingress Part 2 activity.
Okay. Capcom, we'll go for Woody to proceed to Part 2 ingress activity.
Station Houston, Station Ground 2 for Woody.
Amy, with you on 2.
We've had a good vestibule leak check, so you are go for the Part 2 activity in step 3.1.
I copy. Good news. Copy go in 3.1.
Let's see, ICE and Ethos, now that we're in the Part 2 vestibule, any idea how long before we can open the hatch from this point?
I'm on flight.
And Flight Ethos, from my perspective, I see a good APAS equalization, but I know there are other steps in the hatch opening path that take minutes rather than instantaneous.
Yep.
And we are getting a view of NASA astronaut Woody Hoberg as he continues to step through those hatch opening procedures. Hoberg was working to install some padding on the APAS hatch to help outfit it to protect it.
Let's see, PAO, I think my ballpark estimate is going to be about 30 minutes from now. We'll probably open the hatch.
Copy. We'll just play along as we go here. It'll be on the Node 2 encoder, audio and video down for the welcoming remarks. Capcom will go up on 2, referencing message 963. And when the crew's all on board, we'll need a scene and voice check as usual.
Copy.
In flight, we can for about 35 minutes.
Okay.
And we did hear that that vestibule repressurization was successful, as you can see on your screen. Woody Hoberg continuing to step through procedures ahead of hatch opening. We are expecting a hatch opening to occur around 10 a.m. Central, 11 a.m. Eastern, if all continues to go smoothly with the operations. And this view of Crew Dragon Endurance inside are 4 astronauts: NASA astronaut Jasmine Mogbelli, ESA astronaut Andy Mogensen, JAXA astronaut Satoshi Furukawa, and Roscosmos cosmonaut Konstantin Borisov. They docked to the International Space Station at 8:16 a.m. Central Time and are now working through procedures on their end as well ahead of hatch opening around 10 a.m. Central Time. This view back inside the space station as Hoberg continues to step through those procedures. We did see him installing some padding on the APAS hatch. The APAS hatch is the androgynous peripheral assembly system. He installed that padding to help outfit it ahead of the hatch opening. And you can see him now. He has a flashlight. He's going to visually inspect the hatch, make sure everything looks good before the hatch can actually be opened up. And that APAS hatch now open. So with that APAS hatch open, that's not quite the end of the process here. There's one more hatch to open on the Dragon side. So the crew on both space station and inside Endurance are working through procedures to open up that hatch next, and then they'll welcome the Crew 7 astronauts on board. As you can see, Hoberg now using that flashlight to inspect the hatch on the Dragon side, make sure everything is looking good, no foreign object debris or FOD, before they do go ahead and open up that hatch here shortly. We are going to stand by for the pressure to just equal out between the space station hatch and the Dragon hatch.
Houston Station on 2, APAS hatch is open, negative condensation.
We copy all, Frank. Thank you.
And this is a view This is a view inside Mission Control Houston. NASA Flight Director Jed Freeling, who you see on the console there with the flowers, led the team through docking operations this morning. The crew here in Houston continuing to work alongside the crew on board the space station, namely NASA astronaut Woody Hoberg, as he steps through procedures ahead of hatch opening. The APAS hatch, or the station side hatch, is now open. We're standing by for that pressure to equal out between the Dragon hatch and the station hatch before the Dragon hatch can be opened. As NASA continues to live and work in low Earth orbit, humanity's home in space for over 20 years, we're also working with commercial industry on commercial LEO destinations to ensure there is no gap in low Earth orbit. So let's check out this video to learn more about the commercialization of low Earth orbit.
Dragging the ground will no longer be available for comm.
LEO. It stands for Low Earth Orbit. That's a portion of outer space about 250 miles up. And for over 20 years, it's been home to the world's most unique laboratory, the International Space Station. In this weightless environment, the space station has enabled scientific and engineering breakthroughs that just weren't possible on Earth. It's taught us more about our planet, physics and biology, and it's preparing humans to travel farther from home than ever before. And as the space station approaches its end of life, America will maintain leadership in LEO by enabling a new era of commercial spaceflight. Through the Commercial LEO Development Program, NASA is working with industry partners to develop the first generation of commercial space destinations. These will be privately owned and operated space facilities, where NASA will be just one of many customers. This new orbital economy will stimulate commerce and usher in the next generation of aerospace engineering, opening the door for scientific discoveries and private astronauts, allowing NASA to continue its critical research in LEO, supporting deep space exploration and bringing those benefits back home to Earth.
And if you're just joining us, Crew 7 successfully docked to the International Space Station at 8:16 a.m. Central Time this morning. The crew is working through procedures to open up the hatches between Space Station and Dragon.
SpaceX Dragon for food and water inventory when available.
And Dragon, I'm with you on the big loop for inventory.
Okay, regarding water, all bottles consumed from bag 201 and 202. Regarding bag 203, 4 out of 5 bottles consumed. How copy?
Copy, Satoshi. All water consumed from 201 and 202, and 4 of 5 bottles consumed on 203.
Good copy. Regarding food, bag 301, 3 quarters consumed. And 302, also 3 quarters consumed. 309er, also 3 quarters consumed. 310, also 3 quarters consumed. How copy?
Copy, Satoshi. 3 quarters of food consumed on bags 301, 302, 309er, 310.
Good copy, thanks.
And Satoshi, one clarification, does the water count include the bottle for 4.400 section 5?
Affirmative.
Great, thank you.
And that was JAXA astronaut Satoshi Furukawa calling down to the core about water usage that was drank on the way to space station. There's a very methodical way that the Dragon is packed with the cargo in order to have the proper weight distribution, and SpaceX keeps track of this throughout the mission in order to ensure everything is as it should be in the correct place ahead of re-entry.
Houston and SpaceX, station on the Big Loop. Station is ready for Dragon hatch equalization.
Houston copies.
Flight Ethos copies. Once the Dragon crew is also ready, we're expecting the equalization to take about 2 minutes.
Okay, we'll tell them once they're ready.
Ethos copies.
And with that call, Hoberg reporting that the space station side is ready to begin the equalization process. We'll stand by for the Dragon side to be ready for that step as well. Once that equalization process occurs, the team will verify that everything went smoothly with it, and then at that point, the hatch will be good to be open between the space station and Endurance.
And Dragon SpaceX on the Big Loop for a couple of items.
Go ahead for Dragon.
Hey, Dragon. Just wanted to double check if we could come back on board with video. Let us know when you're ready for that. In addition, we can perform the equalization while you are completing Section 5 of 4.400. Just let us know when you're ready for equalization.
We're doing Section 5 now, and we're ready for equalization. The only thing we need to do is doff our undergarments and change into flight suits, so hang on with coming internal with the cameras, please.
Okay, Dragon, thanks for the update.
And with that call, we may expect to get views back inside Crew Dragon Endurance once the crew finishes getting changed. They did take off their spacesuits in order to get them into a drying configuration. The next major milestone that we'll be tracking is for the pressure to equalize between Endurance and the space station before the hatch can be opened.
So I copied that the Dragon crew is ready for hatch equalization, so once we get AOS here, we'll let everybody know that it's going to take 2 minutes.
MD copies, that sounds good, and once you're good, then make a call to them. We can go ahead and send the hatch open prep command, which would begin that equalization.
Agreed.
Flight etiquette for timeline.
Go.
I like to go to reconfigure our GPS unit.
Yeah, we go to reconfigure GPS.
Copy, go.
Flight ethos for timeline.
Go ahead.
Flight, we're into our block for Node 3 Seadra activation. I'd like to push this a little bit to the right until we get crew on board and finish out our docking and ingress.
Okay, that's fine. I'm assuming it's not a big deal if we delay bringing up Node 3 Seadra.
Correct. These half cycles are for having extra crew come on board, so we just need to get them activated before we get too far into the crew day.
Copy.
Station and Dragon, Houston on the big loop. And Station and Dragon, Houston on the big loop.
Dragon, ready to copy?
Stand by for equalization. It's expecting to take 2 minutes.
Dragon copies.
Station copies.
MD, you can equalize.
Flight MD.
Yeah, you can go ahead and equalize.
Thank you much.
And both the station side and the Dragon side have been given the go for the equalization process to begin. Expecting that to take about 2 minutes. Once the pressure is equalized, teams here on the ground will complete leak checks to make sure that everything is as expected, and then the go will be given to open up the hatch. And here is a view from inside the International Space Station. You can see that A-Pass hatch is open.
So when we've been having these GPS-2 signatures that did trigger a collection of onboard cautions as are visible to the crew on the displays, we'd like your go to do some cleanup. We're going to keep one of the onboard cautions up just so in the event that the vehicle woke up, they would have that awareness or the need to do an emergency departure. However, we wanted to clear the rest of them out such that if we did have that signature again, they would trigger and notify the crew and the ground team. So we'd like to have you go for that cleanup, and then we'll let the crew know and then go ahead and clean those up.
Yeah, you can clean up your cautions.
Big happy, thanks.
I'm seeing the Dragon ISS pressurization and work.
Copy.
Dragon SpaceX on the big loop for alert reconfiguration.
Go for Dragon.
Dragon, we've been evaluating the GPS-2 alerts on your board and are going to clear most of those. We're going to keep the AGPS-2 filter faulted walk-off on the board so you have insight that that receiver is still down. How copy?
Dragon copies all.
Good news, and clarification, degraded performance, not hard down.
Dragon copies degraded performance.
And the endurance equalization process is underway. If you're just joining us this morning, Crew 7 has arrived to the International Space Station following their launch Saturday morning from the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. We are standing by for the hatches to open here a short time from now. The A-Pass hatch, or the hatch on the space station side, has already been opened, as you can see here on your screen. We are just waiting for that pressure to equalize out between the A-Pass hatch and the hatch on Crew Dragon. Once that pressure is equalized, the team here on the ground will do some checks, make sure everything looks okay, and then the go will be given to go ahead and open up that hatch, at which point we'll see Crew 7 float through the hatch and be welcomed aboard their home for the next 6 months, the International Space Station.
Flight Robo. Robo. Just for your awareness, there's a couple activities coming up related to the MT translate. I'm expecting all those to get delayed. It gets Cronus and ADCO activities. I'll be working with them.
Copy, yeah, great. Hey, Spartan, how is the port starboard starge looking?
And Flight Spartan, both starges are back in auto track. We are not seeing any indications that terminal bearing 7 on the port starge is seized any longer, and the starge is tracking target angle just fine.
That's great news.
Concur.
We're continuing to stand by for that pressure to equal out between Endurance and the International Space Station.
port is going to be Andy, right? Port CQ?
And check in flight.
Flight burn for timeline.
Go ahead.
I'm back at go to enable BGA auto biasing and step into our power up and DDCU config.
You have a go for all.
Copy.
Again, we're continuing to stand by for that pressure to equalize out before the hatch can be open and Crew 7 can float aboard the International Space Station. Once they are on board, following a welcoming ceremony, they will take part in a safety briefing, which is typical for arriving crew members to Space Station. This safety briefing will be led by Space Station Commander Sergei Prokopyev and will officially kick off the handover period between Crew 6 and Crew 7. Crew 6 is slated to undock from the International Space Station no earlier than September 2nd, but this will be monitored and refined in the coming days. And we're getting views again of NASA astronaut Woody Hoberg floating inside the International Space Station as he continues to step through those procedures ahead of hatch opening. He does have the APAS hatch open already. That's the space station side hatch, while we continue to stand by for pressure to equalize.
I'd like your go to release SpaceX Teachers Critical MCC complex. We will still keep the Teachers Crom for another hour and 45 minutes.
All right, TMD, you agree we can release SpaceX Teachers Critical?
Yes, I can confirm we can release Teachers Critical. We still have our S band up, but we'll be taking that down as soon as we open the hatch. But go to release Critical.
Okay, GC, you can release SpaceX Critical MCC complex.
GC copies.
And this view from inside Mission Control Houston, NASA Flight Director Judd Freeling did lead the team this morning in docking operations. That docking occurred at 8:16 a.m. Central.
The big loop for next steps.
SpaceX Dragon, we are ready for next steps, and we're also ready for cameras to go internal.
Excellent, Dragon. We'll put that in work, and I wanted to let you know that the vestibule and capsule are equalized, so we are ready for hatch open.
And you heard that go for hatch open. The vestibule was repressurized and everything checking out. Short time from now, we should expect to see Crew 7 float aboard the International Space Station.
SpaceX Dragon copies, and we will go ahead and open the forward hatch at this time.
Copy, Dragon. You are go for hatch opening per the decal, followed by 4.400, section 6.
And as you can see here, NASA astronaut Woody Hoberg continuing to step through those procedures ahead of hatch opening. The Crew 7 astronauts are also getting things configured and will join the 7-person crew onboard station, bringing the total crew members on station to 11 here shortly.
Flight OSO for the crew quarters ATU config. Yes, sir. Checking with the other parties. It does sound like Frank to be prime or on call, so no reconfiguration needed. This activity can be aborted.
Aborted. Okay. Copy. Capcom, our mistake. Frank's absolutely right. We'll keep him as the on-call person.
SpaceX Dragon on the big loop, hatch is open.
And SpaceX copies, hatches open. And crew, if you could complete section 6 of 4.400, and then just a reminder that this starts the LIO clock.
Copy completing section 6 of 4.400 and copy on the LIO clock.
And we did hear that call out that the hatch was opened at 9:58 a.m. Central. NASA astronaut Woody Hoberg is now going to work to install IMV ducting to help mix the air of the space station environment with the air inside Crew Dragon. And they're also working to seal some of the LiO or lithium hydroxide cartridges that scrubbed carbon dioxide inside the Dragon capsule on the ride to the International Space Station. The crew will also check some vent valves as well, so it may just be... And we are getting views back inside Crew Dragon Endurance of Crew 7, first time since they've docked to the International Space Station. Great to see them on board. May just be a little bit more time until we do welcome them on board as they continue those preparations, but these last final checks are critical to make sure everything is good to go, since it will remain docked to the International Space Station for the next 6 months.
Flight Rio.
Rio.
Yes, flight. Both HSG and Rio, we completed our tasks for today, and with your permission, we would like to go on call.
All right. Anybody need Rio or HSG? All right. Rio, you are released, and HSG, can you call the FOD phone? I can give you the number if you don't have it.
Rio, copy.
And flight, I'll need that number.
33393.
request command for their rail nav mode. Our star block has to send that up to 5 times. I'd like to go to resend this command.
You can resend.
And first through the hatch is the commander of Crew 7, Jasmine Mogbelli, her first time on board the International Space Station. Next up, we have Andy Mogensen, ESA astronaut. This is his second space flight. And coming through the hatch now is JAXA astronaut Satoshi Furukawa. This is his second mission to space as well. And next through the hatch is Konstantin Borisov of Roscosmos, his first time on board the International Space Station as well. And with that, Crew 7 is successfully on board the International Space Station, their home for the next 6 months.
Flight VVO for on-call.
VVO.
Flight, I've completed all my tasks for the day, and I'm ready to take the VVO console on-call.
All right, anybody need VVO before it takes off? Sorry, VVO, you released?
In-flight surgeon.
Surgeon?
Yes, sir. The PMCs are set up. The remote parties are standing by whenever they come due, and we would like to take the ISS surgeon console on call with that.
Anybody need surgeon before it takes off? Surgeon, you're released.
Thank you, sir.
And if you're just joining us, Crew 7 just floated aboard the International Space Station after hatches were opened at 9:58 a.m. Central. That was following a docking that occurred at 8:16 a.m. Central. It was almost a 30-hour ride to orbit as they launched from the Kennedy Space Center in Florida at 2:27 a.m. Central.
You're released, Topo. Thanks, Mike.
And you can see lots of excitement there. Crew going to work on securing a few items and getting everything squared away ahead of a welcome ceremony slated to begin here shortly.
Houston, Dragon, IMV duct installation complete. Go for IMV fan activation.
Houston copies. We'll put that in work.
All right, welcome orbit 2. When you are ready for handover, please meet your flight director on ISS safety 1 with an amber.
Flight MER manager.
MER manager.
I'm taking the MER on call. Thank you very much for a good docking.
All right.
If you're just joining us, Crew 7 had the hatches open at 9:58 a.m. Central Time following a docking at 8:16 a.m. Central. We're standing by for a welcome ceremony here slated to begin shortly. The crew is just configuring some items inside Crew Dragon, setting up the cameras and preparing for that welcoming ceremony. This is the view inside Endurance. You can see the spacesuits there. They're in a drying configuration. The crew has changed out of those spacesuits clearly and are now in their flight suits.
Houston, Dragon, do we have a go in step 6.3 of 2.102 to open location 23 and check for debris under panel?
Checking.
See who's got that one. Oso, is that you or ICE? 6.3, go.
And we're getting views now inside the International Space Station. The crew is working to set up for the welcome event. You see Woody Hoberg, NASA astronaut with the microphone in his hand. He was prime for hatch opening operations this morning.
KO, you go ready for scene and voice check?
Flight, we're ready for a scene and voice check when the crew is, or when we have KU.
Yeah. Flight S4, go for the LIO cartridge.
Okay, what are we waiting for the LIO cartridge? To open location 23. What specifically criteria are we looking for in 6.3?
One moment, flight.
And we are standing by for a welcome event slated to begin here shortly. You do see NASA astronaut Woody Hoberg with a microphone in his hand there. He's completing a scene and voice check.
This is required for us to change out our LiO cartridge within 20 minutes for this, put the seal on.
Copy, Jaws. We need to send 2 commands to get the IMV configured, so stand by. Shortly we'll be able to give you a go for 6.3.
Dragon copy, standing by.
Long count on the wireless mic. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
And
6,
Dragon
7,
Houston on Spacecraft
8,
2, you have a go
9,
in 6.3.
10.
Dragon copies, go in 6.3.
We are targeting our welcome ceremony to begin at 10:30 a.m. Central Time this morning. If you're just joining us, Crew 7 docked to the International Space Station at 8:16 a.m. Central following their launch yesterday evening from Kennedy Space Center in Florida. It was almost a 30-hour ride to orbit, but the hatches were opened at 9:58 a.m. Central. We did see Crew 7 float aboard the International Space Station, their home for the next 6 months, and we are standing by for that welcome ceremony to begin less than 15 minutes from now.
SpaceX Dragon, question on the LiO cartridge. Cartridge 1 was the cartridge installed as the active, so which one do you want us to now put in the active slot?
Checking Dragon. I'll get you an answer in just a sec. And Dragon SpaceX on the big loop, you will put cartridge 1 back into the active slot, but sealed. So same cartridge that you just pulled out.
Okay, Captain, we'll put cartridge 1 back in the active slot, sealed.
Good readback.
Everything looking good for our welcoming ceremony. Still on track to begin just about 10 minutes from now at 10:30 a.m. Central. And floating into the field of view is NASA astronaut Woody Hoburg. Again, he was prime in the hatch opening operations earlier this morning. Also in the frame are Roscosmos cosmonauts Dmitry Patelin and Andrei Fedyaev. And this view back inside Endurance as Crew 7 works to get everything squared away ahead of the welcoming ceremony. We can see the Crew 7 mission commander, Jasmine Mugbelly, there in the bottom of the screen. This is Mugbelly's first trip to space. And here we can see two members of Crew 7, Jasmine Mugbelly with her back to us, as well as European Space Agency astronaut Andy Mogensen. Looks like they're continuing to step through those procedures to configure the LiO, or lithium hydroxide cartridge. The LiO cartridge helps scrub carbon dioxide inside the Dragon capsule on the ride to the International Space Station.
SpaceX Dragon LiO cartridge is sealed and installed.
SpaceX copies LiO sealed at 1524 Zulu. And Dragon, have a couple quick reminders for you if you have a minute.
Yeah, go for Dragon.
So first off, the suits have completed their 1-hour drying period. We just wanted to let you know for when you get back to 4.012. And then regarding inventory, I wanted to remind you that any partially consumed meals should be disposed of on ISS. How copy?
Copy. Our 1-hour timer is up, so when we get back, we can step into the appropriate section of 4.102 and copy any partially consumed meal should be disposed of on ISS.
Good read back, Dragon. And finally, we're going to be handing over comm to Houston. It was a pleasure learning and flying with you, and we really hope you enjoy your time on station.
Hey, it's great working with you. Thanks so much, and we'll see you on the backside.
And you can see some of the Crew 7 members starting to make their way inside the International Space Station following that hatch opening at 9:58 a.m. We are targeting the welcome ceremony to begin in just about 4 minutes from now at 10:30 a.m. Central. And we are in a brief expected handover period between satellites, but will regain communications here shortly, and our video will return as well. If you're just joining us, Crew 7 docked to the International Space Station at 8:16 a.m. Central. We're standing by for a welcoming ceremony slated to begin in just a couple of minutes. Those hatches were opened at 9:58 a.m., at which point Crew 7 floated aboard the International Space Station, and at this time they're just getting settled, making sure everyone is able to be seen in the view that you see here. 11 people now on board on the International Space Station. And there you have it, all 11 members on board the International Space Station as part of Expedition 69, standing by for our welcoming ceremony slated to begin just moments from now.
Station, this is Houston. Are you ready for the event?
Houston, this is Station. We are ready for the event.
Station, please begin your welcoming remarks.
Okay, on behalf of Expedition 69, welcome to the ISS, and it is an honor to have Crew 7 with us. Congratulations to the NASA and SpaceX teams. Amazing job once again on successfully and flawlessly getting our crewmates up here to us. So thank you so much. I'll now pass it off to the Expedition 69 commander, Sergey.
Good afternoon, everybody. Expedition 69 is very glad to greet new crewmates on International Space Station. First of all, I want to say congratulations for arriving. Congratulations with a successfully flight, launch, and docking. And I want to say for Satoshi and Andreas, welcome back on ISS. This is not first flight for you, but my extremely congratulations for Jasmine and Konstantin with your first flight. You became now the real astronaut and cosmonaut, and I believe this is will be so very significant event all your life. Welcome aboard, a happy flight, and looking forward to together, work together. And Russian now. Поздравляем седьмой экипаж Дрэгона с успешным прибытием на станцию, стыковкой. Ждали вас очень сильно. Ждем работы совместной здесь на станции. И добро пожаловать на станцию повторно. Это для Эндриаса, Сатоши не первый раз уже летает. Но мои самые большие поздравления, конечно, для тех, кто первый раз летит в космос. Прилетел Жасмин и Константин. Константин у нас представитель набора 2018 года. Он первый, кто из этого набора полетел, и это такое большое событие для всего набора. Желаю двигаться дальше в этом же направлении. Удачи нам всем. Все, удачного полета. Спасибо, что наконец-то прилетели к нам.
Thank you, Sergey and Frank, for the welcome. It's so good to see all your smiling faces. As you know, we've been training together for a while for this exact moment where we could join you and continue the amazing work that's done on the International Space Station. I want to echo the thanks to all the teams, SpaceX, NASA, ESA, JAXA, Roscosmos, and CSA for preparing us for this moment. I think we represent a good crew to be coming to the International Space Station. And I know for three of you, you've seen a lot of different crew come through, so we hope you teach us how to do things efficiently and effectively, and we're proud to join this team.
Yeah, I can only echo Jasmine's words. We are incredibly happy and proud to be on board the space station with Expedition 69. We're looking forward to an incredible mission. Personally, I'm looking forward to continuing the work of the last many ESA astronauts. I have a lot of European experiments and Danish experiments, and I want to thank ESA for all of their hard work in preparing to get me here, and also everyone involved in Denmark. This is going to be a fantastic mission. And finally, just a few personal words. Til Cecilie, Emily, Frederik og Jakob. Jeg håber, I ser med. Jeg ved ikke, om I er på vej tilbage til Houston fra Florida, men jeg håber, I nød opsendelsen, og jeg glæder mig så meget til at tale med jer snart og se jer igen. Hej, jeg elsker jer.
I'm very happy to be on the International Space Station, and I'm very excited to work in this brilliant international team. 日本の皆さん、仕事場である国際宇宙ステーションに着きました。この素晴らしい国際クルーの中で確実に仕事をしていきたいと思います。Kostya?
Yeah, it's possible. I'm glad that I didn't ruin this first time. Very excited to be here. It's so hard to explain the feeling of seeing these guys here floating so easily. Very excited, looking forward to long duration flight. And also I want to point out again how important it is to work together in unity. And this is International Space Station. We are the most international SpaceX flight. Right now you see 5 nationalities here, and we are looking forward to work together, continue ISS 79 and ISS 70 expeditions. Now a few words in Russian. Очень рад здесь быть. Спасибо большое. Всех очень приятно видеть. Здесь такая домашняя атмосфера. Неожиданно просторно после того, как мы летели на корабле. Очень благодарен всем, кто участвовал в подготовке к полету. Все агентства, и Роскосмос, НАСА, Европейское и Японское космическое агентство. Отдельное спасибо SpaceX за корабль, за то, как мы классно долетели. Неожиданно легко. Я ожидал, что будет тяжелее. И своему набору, вот то, что Сергей говорил, 2018 года, ждем всех здесь. Надеюсь, что будет такая передача эстафетной палочки безостановочная, в которой мы все окажемся скоро на МКС. Спасибо всем большое.
All right, welcome to the team, and great words. Thank you so much once again to the NASA team, the SpaceX team, and to all the agencies. What an amazing crew. We look forward to the next few months, and we're going to have a lot of fun together.
Station, this is Houston ACR. That concludes the event.
Thank you, Station. We are now resuming operational audio communications.
And there you have it, a truly international crew now aboard the International Space Station. It has been an incredible few hours, and it's so great to see Crew 7 on board safely. In our welcoming ceremony, each of them spoke about what it took to get to this moment to welcome 4 new astronauts to the space station, bringing the current population on board to 11 human beings as part of Expedition 69. We have been with you from the very beginning. We saw a spectacular launch at 2:27 a.m. Central on Saturday morning. Following liftoff, the first stage separated and came back to Earth, landing on the recovery ship, while Dragon separated from the second stage. We had a good nose cone deploy, and several major burns took place as Dragon made its way to the space station. Finally, Endurance and its 4-person crew docked to the space station at 9:58 a.m. Central and floated through the hatch at 9:58 a.m., officially bringing them to their new home for the next 6 months. It's been an incredible 24 hours watching this mission, and on behalf of SpaceX and NASA, thank you for watching it all unfold with us. The 7th rotational crew mission has reached the International Space Station and will spend approximately 6 months docked to the orbiting lab until it's time for the crew to come home. So with that, now that Crew 7 has successfully arrived to Space Station, be sure to follow NASA and SpaceX on social media for real-time updates throughout their mission. Thanks again for watching our coverage. Go NASA, go SpaceX, and go Crew 7. This is Mission Control Houston.
accident rates incredibly low. Non-existent is what we're shooting for, and I think we're just about there. Here we are getting very close to X-59's first flight. I know myself and everybody else is going to be really excited that day when we see it actually, the wheels leave the ground. Looking forward to it.
I'm Alexandra Louveau, and I am one of the technical leads for community testing with the X-59. We're going to be surveying the public in different communities across the U.S. to better understand how they perceive the sound from the X-59. My role in the community test is to ensure that we've accurately measured the sound of the sonic thump from the X-59. This data will be able to provide to the U.S. and international regulators so that they can change the rules so that in the future, you and me will be able to fly supersonic around the world. So I started playing the violin in 3rd grade. When I went to college, I studied music engineering, where I got to learn a little bit about microphones and loudspeakers and recording of music. My husband and I play in a local orchestra called Symphonicity. We put on several performances throughout the year, and we like to say that we just play for the love of music. Origami I picked up, I don't know, at some point in college, and just thought it would be a fun thing to do. And it turns out that my husband also really likes origami. So we've actually gone together to origami conferences to learn how to fold more fun things. One of the things that I love about my job is actually being able to partner with people even outside of NASA, and working in this international regulator group is actually a lot of fun, where there are people from different places, different cultures, different backgrounds, but we're all working together towards the same goal. I'm really excited to hear the first sonic thump from the flight of the X-59. That'll be the beginning of a new era for commercial supersonic overland flight.
I'm Larry Clyett, and I am the technical lead for the acoustic validation phase of the Quest mission. During the acoustic validation phase of the mission, that's where we will measure the sonic thump and make sure it's as quiet as we designed the airplane to be. We'll do that a number of ways. We'll do that on the ground with a lot of sensors scattered throughout the desert. And we'll do that in the air too, with some airborne systems that have recording devices that can measure the sonic thump of the airplane. So I love to cook. It's probably my #1 hobby. I like trying new concepts, new ways to cook. I like making Asian foods, just Asian-inspired cuisines, whether it's Chinese, Japanese. I love making Thai food. I love to barbecue. And I think a big part of my love to barbecue and to smoke different foods is the method behind it. I mean, it's a process. I've loved Legos since I was a kid, and then I think only maybe 4 or 5 years ago I discovered that Legos can be for adults. And part of it is a little bit of escape. Everybody needs a hobby to get away from the demanding job, but a lot of it is just continuing on that creative mindset into our daily personal lives, I think, as well. The Quest mission is not just 4 or 5 years old. It's 5 or 6 decades where NASA has been investigating the ability to quietly perform supersonic commercial transportation, to be able to go from point A to point B faster. It's a very big collective effort across the mission and across many NASA centers to make that happen. And so that's what really excites me about all this.
I'm Tiffany Titus. I'm the ground operations lead for the Quest mission at X-59. As the ground operations lead, I'm responsible for overseeing the planning and execution of all things ground operations with the X-59 aircraft. I'm kind of in a way like a wedding planner, where I'm making sure the plane is ready to go from a maintenance standpoint, making sure all the teams are ready to go to support the mission, and just really making sure everything comes together kind of like you would on your big day. Prior to joining X-59, some of the projects that I supported included studying sonic boom acoustics and sonic boom interactions, including the Schlieren imagery that's now famous of the 2 T-38 interactions. Watching Sally Ride launch on STS-7 back in the early 80s really inspired me to want to go into science, technology, and math and just pursue that career. And now I'm here today, thanks to Sally Ride. When I'm not at the office, you can pretty much find me in the Sierra 24/7, whether it be winter, fall, spring, summer. I love being in the mountains and I love being off the grid exploring. It's just a place of, for me, zen, relaxation, a chance to explore and just wander. My husband proposed to me back in the Sierra, and our wedding was actually at a lake in the Sierra where we had friends backpack into to join us. I really enjoy getting to do STEM outreach working at NASA. I think it's great to be able to go to different events, basically just inspire them to keep going, to ask questions, to keep pursuing things that they might not normally think they have a chance to do. As a girl growing up in Michigan, I never thought I would have the chance to really see something like X-59 fly. It'll just be really neat to see all of it come together and all that hard work of the team members just really pay off.
So when you first got there, I was scared for you. But were you ever scared, and how did you overcome it?
Was I ever scared? No, scared is the wrong word to use. I have a respect for these things. You know, your whole life I've flown high-performance aircraft, deployed on ships, and those all have dangers, risks associated with them, you know, so it makes me want to work very hard because I want to come back home to you all. And so I would say I have a respect for the things that I do and the risks that come with that. The thing that I had the most discomfort or the biggest emotional response to was leaving you all. And specifically like the being at launch, but being 4 miles away from you on top of 1.5 million pounds of high explosives and knowing you're there watching and I'm not right there with you to make you more comfortable and talk you through it. And so I was very grateful to our friends who helped and were there with you all to support us through those things. But I'd say that was my biggest discomfort, was if I could have managed to be in 2 places at once, I would have loved to have done those things, but also been the person there with you, you know, helping guide you through it, or to be there supporting you through it. You said, you know, you had fears when I left. And so, yeah, tell me about some of those.
You told us about a launching of a different aircraft like 4 years ago maybe, and we watched it, and it was an old video, and it exploded. Like, they didn't make it. There were people on it, and that terrified me. So I hated your job from then on. But I learned that people train you for this stuff, and they're there to make sure that doesn't happen. So it made me feel a lot better. But you know, there's always the what if, and it can happen still. And so I was it was like if you took my toy, it'd be like, why? Don't take my toy, it's mine. It's mean of you. It's kind of way you feel like you were my toy. And it's just like, it made me, no, don't leave, don't take it. So.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting because the last time I deployed was when we lived in Japan. And that was in 2012, so that's almost 10 years ago. And so you were really small. And I don't know if you remember what life was like. Your older sisters might remember more, and you might have, you know, images and the smells, but like, you know, the talks your mom and I had and the preparation and what that felt like. You know, this may be the first one that you really remember, even though I've done it, you know, 5 times before this. And so that was important. Your mom and I talked a lot about that, what this was going to be like. And that's why it was really important to me to be able to talk to you guys all the time, but I also didn't want it to be boring. I didn't want you guys to be like, oh, Dad's calling again. So, you know, I just wanted us to be there for each other. And I think that I was very happy with how that worked out. You know, I could call you guys almost any time of the day, every day. What did you think about our video conferences? You know, you remember what we did for most of them?
Yeah.
What?
Charades.
Yeah,
right?
that was, I don't know if it was your mom's idea or one of you guys came up. We played games, and it just, that time, at first it flew by. They were never long enough. But I never felt like I had to go, come on, guys, Dad's calling from space. Because at some point, right, even it's still neat that Dad's calling from space, but like after 167 days, Dad's calling from space, you know?
I don't think it was ever like that. It like major, I don't want to go. Because you made a great impression the first time we played when you did Escalator.
That was my high point. My charades Escalator was...
Because you could just float
weightlessness, right? I mean, you know, it was good. It was fun.
We got it right away.
So, yeah, we had fun playing charades. Yeah, that was good.
So you've flown on Shuttle, Soyuz, obviously spent 2 long-duration missions on ISS, and then you get to see Bob and Doug come up on a commercial crew vehicle. Can you just talk a little bit about the significance of that and kind of where we are in the space program?
Well, what was cool for me on a personal level is I flew with Doug on my shuttle. It was both of our first missions. I flew with Karen, you know, Doug's better half, on my second mission, Expedition 35 and 6. And then it was really nice to have Doug be there again for the third mission. I used to only fly with Tom Marshburn, but he bailed out on me on this one. So now I only fly with a member of the Hurley-Nyberg family. But just in general, it was so awesome to be part of that part of our nation's manned spaceflight history. You know, at first I was looking at it as a view of, oh, this is cool that this is, that I'm seeing Bob and Doug, and good friends, and they're coming in my expedition. And I took a step back and realized, this is a pretty significant part in space history, right? Like, you flip through chapter books on space history and you've got different programs, and first flights of all those programs are major milestones.
Yeah.
And this is no different, and it's kicking off a whole new kind of method to get to the space station. Exciting to launch from Florida again. And I remember thinking that on launch day, their launch, we passed directly over the launch pad 2 minutes before launch. So in that 2 minutes, it sounds really close, but 2 minutes, we were already like up by South Carolina or something. So we couldn't just see out the window their liftoff. And it was daytime, so difficult to see the contrast of the rocket. But I got a great view of the launch pad, took a nice photo of it moments before liftoff, and then NASA TV was being piped up to us, and we were watching live. And Yvonne and I had this whole scheme of which windows we had cameras going, and we had it all. We kind of did a little rehearsal on how to manipulate all the cameras, kind of like these guys setting up the set, making right before liftoff, and then shortly after liftoff, I just focused on NASA TV and was glued to that thing. I remember being so excited.
My heart, when I'm watching a rocket launch on NASA TV, my heart is racing. You know, I'm nervous.
Well, it's different when it's your friends, right?
Yeah.
Now that you're an astronaut, you know those people. They're your colleagues, they're your friends, you know their families. And it's entirely different than when you're just Woody at MIT and interested in space, but not personally invested in them. Right. And same thing for me. I'm on the space station, first manned rocket launch of that type, and like, go, you know, just so excited. And then the engine's cut off and it's all good. Yeah. But yeah, same thing.
I knew before I got to NASA that launch and landing are 2 really dynamic phases of flight, and they're scary. I mean, we're taking some risks in that. And I think something I didn't fully appreciate until I got here is, you know, talking to some veterans and talking to people that really know, EVA is maybe a third one, where we're doing some risky stuff. Obviously, we're doing it as safely as we can, but I'm curious, you know, do you think of it that way, similar to launch and landing? And are you nervous going out the door, like you might be anticipating a launch?
Well, I think everyone is a little your nerves are on edge on your first one. As you do a few more, you get a little more comfortable with the whole situation. But what surprised me on this one, the first of the 4 that Bob and I did, which was the first one for me for 7 years and the last one since Luca and I went out and all that water in the helmet problem happened, it was just another morning as I was going through the morning, and we got into the deep press and the hatch was closed and we start moving air out of the crew lock, and it got to the low pressures where I knew my next actions were open the hatch, and I felt my heart race a little bit. And I was thinking to myself, what are you doing, man? Settle down. And I opened the hatch and out I went, and I remember feeling a little like I wanted to go fast, and I even thought to myself, they're going to call on the radio and say to slow down.
Because they're watching all your
Because they're
data.
watching all your heart rate data and everything. And they did do that. But it only lasted a minute or two. But it surprised me that I had that kind of first time feeling a little bit on this one. And then it was just so awesome to be out there with Bob, somebody who is so capable and talented. And I think we fell into a rhythm pretty fast. And that was very settling. Bob and I have never done even an NBL run together. The first time we've ever done any spacewalk activity was on a real EVA, but it didn't feel like that. It just kind of clicked. Your questions about the risk of it, you definitely, you get a sense for it when you're outside. And what I think most is now we're at a phase where I can only help Bob and Bob can only help me. You as Capcom can't, flight director can't. They can provide good ideas and direction. Yeah. But at the end of the day, the two people out there are for each other.
You're a busy man, and I don't want to take too much of your time, so it's a true honor to get to talk to you so soon after you landed.
Yeah, this is awesome.
Really fun to see you.
I can't wait till I'm sitting there talking to you about your first space flight. That'll be super cool.
Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, awesome.
Chris, welcome back.
Oh, man. Great to see you, man.
I can't believe it was less than a week ago you were in space.
I can't either. You know, it all happens so fast. It's so cool. And next thing you know, you're seeing your friends, and a week ago you were in space.
Take me through a little bit of the rehab so far. Like, how do you feel right now, less than a week out?
I feel really good. I think that our bodies are like amazing, because getting there to space, I had almost zero adaptation opening the hatch and floating in. My body just knew how to do it. And I feel like it was better coming back this time than last time as well. I mean, really little dizziness or anything like that. And so rehab has been, at the gym, and we're focusing on balance and changing direction and that sort of thing. But it hasn't been vomit-inducing or anything like that. It's been not so bad.
I saw those photos of you smiling right after landing. It looks like you were just right at home.
You know, I was smiling because I finally got to stretch my knees out. I'm like, oh, thank God, my knees.
You know, you talk about adapting. We obviously see videos of you down here in Mission Control, and you just look like you're completely comfortable. You're really good at moving in zero-G in weightlessness. Does it take 3 missions to get that way?
It doesn't take 3 missions, but it takes a good chunk of a couple weeks or a month, maybe longer. Everybody's different. But for instance, what I really enjoyed was we got to space. Anatoly had been there multiple times. I'd been there a couple times, but Ivan hadn't. And watching him gangle his way through the hatch, and the first couple days kind of move around with extreme uncertainty, and even inside looking for the next place to put his hand, and then slowly watching his comfort level. And man, towards halfway through and the rest of the mission, he was just zipping around just like he'd been there a million years. So again, your bodies and your brains just sort of adapt to it. And the other thing is, you get used to not needing your hands to do stuff, and your feet just start instinctively grabbing handrails, but your feet just find it. And in fact, there was a few times where I needed to move a handrail for some science reason, or payload had to go there, and my foot would naturally swoop in that location, and there would be no handrail there. And I realized, well, that's pretty crazy. Without even thinking, my foot knew that that's where the handrail should be to grab, but it wasn't there.
Being your 3rd mission, did it come back, a minute in, an hour in?
Minutes, yeah, like really fast. And when I was a shuttle guy, I came to the space station, but my analogy is like a vacation rental. Like, you're enjoying the house, you're enjoying the facilities, but you don't care how the VCR and cable wiring is. You don't care how the sprinkler system works. You don't care the nuance on the thermostat. Everything should work. And if it doesn't, you call the landlord and say, fix this thing. That's like a shuttle visiting person for just 2 weeks. But my last mission, and again this one, now it's not a vacation rental, it's your house. Yeah. And you care about how the wiring on the TV system is. You care about the sprinkler system not going on time, and you care about trash day and all those things, and it's your home. And you have like this real ownership of it. And I remember thinking how cool that was last time when I got to that point. And this time it was right away, because I only overlapped with Drew and Jessica for a week, maybe 9 days. And then I was on my own, but it was no big deal because I'd already had that feeling of ownership. And the space station had changed, but it really hadn't changed a ton, so I felt really quite at home. Yeah, it was a neat feeling.
After viewing Earth in orbit, do you feel like it has fostered a greater sense of sensitivity towards the well-being of our planet and the planet's environment for you?
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, when you look at that planet, you know, like I said, from the first time I saw it out the windows of the shuttle till, like, you know, looking out the cupola or going out for a spacewalk, I mean, you just can't help but thinking, like, going back to the very beginning, like, there are people down there, and those people are not only people, heck, there's trees and plants and animals that are on that planet, and the only reason that they're there is because this miracle that has our planet have all the right things at this time, right? And so everything that we know and we love is only here because of the way the planet is in its lifetime at this moment in time. So you can't help thinking about, we're pretty bold to think that we should have the right to change it, let it change over time. I mean, we are like one planet in our solar system. You know, our sun is only going to be around for so long, a little longer than you and I will be alive, so that's sort of convenient for us, but maybe inconvenient for later. But, you know, our planet is going to evolve as it should, and we should be really good stewards of it just to make sure that it does it as naturally as it does it for the sake of all the living things on this planet. And our planet is alive too. I mean, that's what's, I think, really super compelling from space. You can actually see it, you know, not like on a daily basis, but on a yearly basis, you know, specifically pictures from space 10 years, 20 years, 30 years ago, we can see things changing. Some of it just as it does for itself, some of it as a reaction to us. And I think we should be conscientious of what our impact is and try to minimize that as much as possible so that we can all live on this planet happily and healthily. Like I said, not only the humans are only one part of it, but everything else that's on our planet.
So we've been traveling into space, maybe not for a very long time, but for a bit. Do you think this is a similar experience that astronauts, even in the past, and anyone who's been able to have that same perspective on our planet, do you think that they have had a similar feeling, and how do you think that that has evolved through the decades?
Yeah, I'm sure they have, but in the very beginning, you know, before we had satellites, we probably didn't have as many, you know, overarching views of what's going on over the long term. In geological time, it's a blink of an eye, but like over the long term for our human existence here, I think it's becoming more and more obvious that we have an impact. Like I mentioned, I think folks all need to take the lap around the planet, because then you can see, you know, the frailty of it. You know, like our atmosphere is so thin, it's ridiculous. Like, I think, you know, when we look up to the sky, we think, oh, you know, there's plenty of, you know, oxygen to breathe, you know, we're fine. When you step away from the planet and you see that's just this little thin layer, and that's it between, you know, we're only at 250 miles above the Earth, and it's a totally inhospitable place to be. You know, it's hot, super cold. You know, obviously there's no oxygen, it's a vacuum of space. You cannot live there unless you have a space station, and that is very fragile as it is. I think you probably know we're always doing maintenance on the space station, so we're always fixing it. So there's no way we could really sustain ourselves in space. So we need to really take care of our planet, and it's the place that we all live and where we're from. We absolutely need to take care of it. You're into the environment, and
Yes.
like everybody should be. And I'm so proud of you at your young age to be thinking about that and have that on the forefront of your mind. It's pretty cool.
I think I'm particularly interested in the environment because, yes, the planet, I love it. If we want to keep living and we want everybody to keep continuing to have the full lives that they deserve and have the same thirst for life, we need a planet that can give us that kind of shelter.
Yep.
And that's a two-way relationship. Any passions, I think, music, science, whether it's like in space or on our planet, you can't really have those passions if you don't have a planet to live on to experience them. And I think that's kind of what connects all people.
Yep. I agree. I think everybody wants to have a happy life.
Yes.
Healthy life.
A happy, healthy life. Exactly.
Yeah. And we all deserve it, but we all have to take responsibility. I love what you said. It's a two-way street. It gives us so much. We need to give back.
As we keep doing maintenance on the space station every day, we need to do that back to our planet.
Yep, exactly.
Beautiful. What about doing a spacewalk do you think would be the most surprising for people to hear about? Like, what do you think is the most interesting aspect of it that maybe isn't just, well, obviously you're outside in space?
Yeah. There's so many really fascinating things about doing a spacewalk. It is entirely your sensory overload. It is every sensation that you have as a human being wrapped up in 6 hours. First of all, as just to take you through, like, getting out the door, as you're getting up, suited up, it's like this is something professionally that you've looked forward to for a long time and practiced. You know it's not going to be easy. You're super focused. You've studied, so you're on the top of your game. And you go out the door and move your way over to where you're supposed to go to work, and then the sun starts to come up and you see the planet right below you. I mean, you have total control of that, of where you're looking, and it's a little shocking and somewhat a little scary. It makes you sort of hold on a little bit for a second, but double check your tethers, make sure you're okay. Okay, my heartbeat just went down, I'm okay. Now the sun's up, so I'm getting a little bit hot because I'm working a whole lot, and then the sun starts to go down 45 minutes later. Oh man, now I'm getting super cold and I'm starting to get hungry because I'm out there for a couple hours. In the middle of it, you're having a conversation with the folks on the ground, so it's tying you right back to Earth. On my first spacewalk, we were up hanging out at the solar array, and we happened to fly over Canada, and the northern lights were below you. It's like, holy moly, that's amazing. That was compelling, left an impact on me because it reminded me that there's so much out there in space that's going on that we have absolutely no control of. Probably in those northern lights, my background is as a scientist, but I'm sure that it started from some type of solar flare, and then the magnetic field of the Earth gets activated as the particles come toward the Earth, and we can't do anything about that. That's what it is. And I think that was the most compelling feeling. Like, we squabble down here about energy or whatever we squabble about down here on Earth, which is very inconsequential to really what's going on in the rest of the universe. I mean, we are only one little planet, but it is getting affected by the rest of the universe. And I think that really came true when I was sitting there and that green stuff was below me hitting the Earth, and it is what it is, we're just part of it. So it's like all of that, and then at the end of it, you're like, wait a minute, tick-tock, like we have to get back in the house, right? So you have to go back, then your brain starts to tick again. Did it get everything done? Where's all my equipment? Where's my buddy? Where's my partner? Make sure all of that, sort of like survival skills, I think at the end, this sort of tick in, come to play. And every now and then it dawns on you that, like, hey, I'm in a very dangerous place, actually. The main goal of this spacewalk is actually to go outside and come back in, both of you. And I think it finally, at some point in time, that kicks in. So we practice all this on Earth, but there's always something that you don't anticipate. Either it's too hot or too cold for a piece of metal to work correctly. You might have to wait, and so there's a lot of highs that you got something done really quick and fast and you were successful. A lot of lows of, like, I'm working as hard as I can and I can't get this done, and maybe you have to alter the plan and call your buddy in to help you out. So it is really a huge spectrum.
What is it like, or what does it feel like to see the outside of the ISS so close, knowing it's just like controlled falling just through space?
You recognize that it's sort of fragile and you're living in there. I think that's one of the things, and it's also incredibly beautiful. It sounds sort of silly maybe, but it really feels like you're in space. You are really part of this universe, versus inside you're sort of like on a ship. I guess it's equivalent to like when you're on a boat and you're on the boat and you're having a pretty cool view of the water and all that kind of stuff, and then if you jump out and you go for a swim and you have some goggles on and you're looking around underneath, I think it's probably that different. It's like you're in it, right? You are in it. I think that's probably a good description of it. I had the opportunity to be on the top of P6 when we had a solar array sticking up, and then look down at it, and it was super cool. I also had the opportunity to be on the front of it, like somebody on the front of a ship, like doing that type of thing. And that's your house, that's your home, that's your base. You want to stay connected to it. You don't want to go away from it. It's humongous. It's absolutely humongous, and you realize that you're pretty far away from the door to get in, but it's an engineering marvel. And you look at all the different pieces and parts that came from all the different agencies and countries, and it's amazing that we were able to put that all together. So it's humbling, super humbling, because you know you're just one guy out there. Hopefully you're not making a mess of it and making a mistake, and all the work of all those people, I mean, it's culminated into that amazing laboratory. It makes you stop for a minute.
So I have a few questions, as you might guess. And to start with, I'd like to know, what is one thing about living and working in space that most people who have never been to space might not know about or understand?
Well, that's a good question, and I'm not just saying that to fill time. There's a whole bunch of interesting things to talk about. I think probably people think it's pretty nice that you can go and float around up there. But that has some consequences to it, you know, of course. I think our bodies need to adapt to going to space. The initial getting to space, like, whoa, you know, it's a big adaptation, but you feel like we're there. Okay, so now I can float around. Okay, maybe I'm a little clumsy. But I think what people don't recognize is your whole being starts to adapt, and it does take time. Folks had said in the past that maybe a month. I didn't believe it. I think most people don't believe it, but you can really see how people become so natural up in space after about a month, and how smoothly they fly, and actually how that translated to me as a reality. It was like, I don't know what it would be like to walk. When I was up there, there was, through the center of the stack, there was a module that went down, and that was essentially our closet, but it was pretty deep. It was probably like 30 feet down, and I'd float right over it, and I was thinking to myself, I don't even think twice about this. Like, if I was walking, I'd be like, oh, you know, like, what do I have to do here? And I actually sort of forgot what it was like to walk around. That your body, your brain, your body can all just sort of live or change to the environment that you're in. I thought that was pretty fascinating.
That does, it reminds me of the videos that you can see of astronauts when they come back and they're holding something and let go, and then it just falls.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's always
one time, and then you go, okay, I got it. Now gravity is back. Yeah.
Yes. It also reminds me of if you're ever like on a boat for an extended period and you get back on land and then you have the sea legs.
Yep, exactly.
Would you say that, or was there something else that was the biggest adjustment for you in space?
I think that was the biggest. I think a close second is losing things. I think one of the most annoying things is like when you think just for a second, you just let something go. It's just gonna be there for just a second, and you turn around and some air current takes it, and you'll see a lot of video of people doing this. And that's because they're looking for something, and that's, I think, one of the most annoying things about being in space. And so good pants, a good flight suit like this with lots of pockets is really beneficial.
What is it like being, once you're in orbit, seeing Earth from the first time from so far away?
Ridiculous. It's awesome. I was actually on the mid-deck of the space shuttle Discovery that took me up there, and I was working in, we got to space, and things start floating, and that was fun, and I'm chuckling about that. And the commander and the pilot up in the front seats of the shuttle, the commander said, "Sonny, come on up." And so I flew up there, and he gave me my little wings, and what was more impressive, I was like, oh, that's nice, but looking out the window, I was like, oh my God, there's Earth, and it's round. It's like they were right. It's super cool, and it's just seeing that planet, in that view is just amazing, and you just can't get sick of it. Every opportunity, I think everybody has who lives on the International Space Station. We have this amazing cupola window now. We have 2 windows that look out by the GEM, so you could see the curvature of the Earth from those 2 venues, and it's just compelling. I mean, you can spend all day sitting there watching our planet. Another transition, sort of like your body adapting. Initially, I was always trying to find places that I knew, like, of course, like Houston, or where I grew up in Massachusetts, or where my dad was from in India, highlighting little pieces and parts of the Earth for the people, which is, of course, very important. Mm-hmm. But after time, I think I started getting more joy out of looking at our planet as a planet. Like watching algae blooms, and all of a sudden in the ocean someplace there's this huge amazing blue spot, or how the ice forms and flows up in the North Atlantic with swirls, or how the clouds are moving. That was another transition. You look at it like it's a living system. The environment is absolutely living. The oceans are living. It's all changing right below you. It seems like, as we sit here on Earth, we don't see all that happening, yeah. But when you look at it from that, macro perspective, finally, it took a little while, but that's how I viewed Earth. It's a pretty cool planet.
And I'm sure it's even more because it's not just the still picture, you're watching it just like grow and transform right in front of you.
Right in front of you, yeah.
Before you saw it from that perspective, did you have any expectations about what you were going to see?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I was, whenever I would get a little bit bummed out here for some whatever reason, missing my family or whatever, I would take a little trek over to Space Center Houston and watch an IMAX movie and go, wow, there's some pretty cool views, but it doesn't even do it justice. I mean, it gave you a foundation, a baseline of what you might see, but when you actually see it for your own two eyes, one of the reasons I feel like everybody on this planet needs to take a lap around our planet, go to space, take a lap, and just look out the window, come back, it'll change your view of things, your perspective.
Mission and liftoff. Touchdown confirmed. Hello, United States.
To explore every phase of cosmic history.
Flashing across California desert skies, the airplanes you see here are writing new chapters in the story of man-made flight. There she goes.
This is my first opportunity to greet you as Deputy Administrator of the National Aeronautics and Space Administration.
Together, you and I must make our new agency
the most unusual place.
An organization that can challenge conventional wisdom.
We can engineer anything. We can write the requirements for.
We're going to make your idea work. This particular idea is quite disruptive.
A typical flight, of course, starts under the wing of the B-52 mothership.
This sleek, high-speed machine would have made Rube Goldberg proud.
The manner in which we fly re-entry from space on the space shuttle was pioneered on the X-15.
The X-31 pretty much wrote the book on thrust vectoring, along with its sister program, the F-18 HAR.
An observation of an occultation is one of the more challenging missions that Sophia can do.
Right now, we are looking at the dawn of a new era of aviation.
Since the telescope was invented in 1610, the astronomer's lens has been partially obscured by the Earth's atmosphere. He has always carried his telescopes as high as he could.
The Earth seen whole is a compelling reminder of the need to safeguard our earthly resources.
To predict, and perhaps someday to control, changes in weather and climate is of the utmost importance to man everywhere. The ocean.
The air and atmosphere, fresh water, ice packs, crops, forests, mineral deposits, pollution. Each has its own type of impact, but always they will be there.
The X-15 aircraft.
She's not the queen of the hangar anymore, although she's still hard at work.
Carrying a heavy payload of instruments, undertaking studies of the near-space environment, possible before only with unmanned satellite and rocket-borne probes.
There's hardly any atmospheric pressure at all. So that's when some of those high-altitude experiments were performed. One of the airplanes had wingtip pods on with experiments out there, sometimes a camera, sometimes a sampling device for a high-altitude or micrometeorite.
Dryden's SR-71 was used as a science camera platform. An upward-looking ultraviolet video camera studied a variety of celestial objects in wavelengths which are blocked by the atmosphere to ground-based astronomers.
Every object on land or sea emits visible light, heat, and other radiation which can be measured.
High above the ground, we can more clearly see nature at work.
Advancing our understanding of the Earth
as an integrated system.
Earth observations, stratospheric sampling, and testing of future shuttle or satellite instruments.
If it takes $1 billion to launch a satellite, you want to make very certain that your instrument works properly.
Plane and satellite complement each other.
Not only for validation, but also to acquire data that you simply can't get from satellites. Vertical profiles, high-resolution measurements.
In situ data.
Actually sample rather than to try to observe this from 100 kilometers away in space.
The sophisticated airborne research platform supports scientific investigators involved in a wide variety of disciplines.
Our first goal is to underfly the ER-2 up and down the Scandinavian coastline, look at CLO and the nitric acid out in the vortex.
With a platform like this, we can carry thousands of pounds of instrument aboard this aircraft. And that means we can put a huge variety of measurements on board. And those measurements all together really pin down how ozone is changing.
We're asking the types of questions now that aren't the first order questions, probing in more detail at a lot of the facets of atmospheric chemistry. We've actually pushed the flying capability of the platform to the limit. It represents a critical engineering feat on the part of the engineers who work on the ER-2 to integrate these instruments.
When we understand the details of what's happening, then we can make better predictions of what this may mean in the next century. Our job is to give that information to policymakers for them to make an informed judgment about what needs to be done to prevent problems.
Our purpose is not here to set a policy, but to get sound scientific information on the environment.
The U-2 is unique in that it flies at very high altitude, above 60,000 feet. From that vantage point, your view is very similar to that you would get from a satellite. Gathered data over the same spots here in South Africa when the satellites overpass, and then they can use that data for validation of the satellite data.
Plus we have the ability to measure in situ, actually flying through the atmosphere, even getting a true cross-section from the satellite down to the ground.
Not that my flight is directly going to affect the welfare of any one person or group of people. It's part of an overall larger effort to enhance living standards worldwide.
What we're hoping to be able to see are the remains of advanced civilizations beneath the forest cover.
Multiple sites all throughout Central America, from Panama to Mexico. They believe that they've discovered things that would have taken an archaeologist 30 or 40 years of digging.
AIRSAR is an instrument that provides you very detailed information about the hydrology of the landscape, meaning how the streams are located, what areas are wetter than the other areas.
Having the platform that is movable and changeable and variable in flight, not dependent on ground programming, is a priceless asset.
The DC-8 has a large range. I don't know that there are too many other platforms that could have gotten us out to the Antarctic for significant data acquisition and then back to Punta Arenas, Chile.
We need to understand and map how the polar ice sheets and the sea ice are changing from year to year. Since we have this opportunity with a big aircraft that can carry many different instruments, we not only measure the ice surface elevation, but we have also ice-penetrating radar instruments that allow us to actually look through the ice, find out how thick the ice is.
In this case, we're measuring the rain and snow.
It's an incredibly versatile and sturdy platform. It allows us to fly high or low, and it can carry a very nice complement of instruments. It will provide direct information about the nature of these fronts and atmospheric rivers. This information can be analyzed directly by the modelers to understand where can they improve their models.
Things that study nature, they don't ever do exactly what your plan was.
Measurements we make and impacts will help us improve forecasts. It'll also help us improve how we measure from space.
Winter storms, intense rain activity on the West Coast.
We're trying to get an understanding of the thermodynamic state of the atmosphere.
NASA deployed its piloted DC-8 and unmanned Global Hawk aircraft in a massive effort to collect as much data as possible.
It costs about $1 million per linear mile of coastline. We mispredict the landfall of a major hurricane.
We expect that these measurements will enable hurricane modelers to improve their track. The involvement of the Global Hawk is a game changer.
You can use this plane to do reconnaissance. Science is just a different kind of reconnaissance.
A combination of endurance, range, and altitude.
We're above the weather
We can study it with all our sensors from on top.
Satellites in low Earth orbit only provide a very brief glimpse.
With the Global Hawk, the expectation is that because of its 30-hour flight duration, we're going to be able to be out over storms for up to 20 hours or so.
Similar remote sensors that you might fly on a satellite, and then you're bringing it down to a 60,000 foot level. That's like putting the whole storm up into higher resolution.
We will start setting out